Hi, and welcome to another video blog. Today's topic is on whole grains. I'm sure by now you've heard the importance of incorporating whole grains into your diet. The most recent dietary guidelines recommend that at least half of your grains be whole grains. So what are you doing to ensure you get enough whole grains? Whole wheat bread, whole grain pasta, or brown rice are some of the more common ways people consume whole grains, but I am challenging you to think outside the box. Today I'm going to introduce you to two of my favorite sources of whole grain, quinoa and couscous. So first I'll show you what quinoa is. Quinoa is actually not a grain at all. It is a dried seed and a member of the same botanical family as chard and beets and spinach. But it's considered a pseudo-grain because you can cook it like, and it has a very similar nutrient profile to cereal grains. So you can find quinoa typically by the rice, or you may find it in the gluten-free section because this grain is gluten-free. So for those that have a gluten intolerance, this is a great way to get whole grains into their diet. And for vegetarians and vegans, quinoa is one of the only plant sources that is a complete protein, meaning all 8 essential amino acids are in one of these little seeds. So quinoa will typically cost a little more than what you're used to spending on brown rice. A bag this size is about $5. But keep in mind that quinoa more than doubles when you cook it, and adding more variety and adding a more flavorful grain into your diet is well worth the cost. So quinoa has a very mild and nutty flavor, and you can bring out a little of that nutty flavor when you toast it. To help save you some time when cooking quinoa, look for a pre-rinsed quinoa. Quinoa is covered in a bitter saponin, which can really ruin the flavor if it's not washed out. But more than likely you'll find a pre-rinsed quinoa. So today I'm going to show you one of my favorite recipes with quinoa is a Southwest quinoa salad. So this goes out to my friends and family in Texas because if you know how to make salsa, this will be super easy and it's very inexpensive as well. So to bring out some of the nutty flavors of quinoa, I'm going to lightly toast it in a non-stick pan, and you have to be careful to stir constantly so that you don't get any little burnt quinoas because those won't cook and they'll get all crunchy. So I'm just going to lightly toast these for about 3 to 5 minutes. Okay. So while I was toasting the couscous, I started getting 1.5 cups water, bringing that to a boil. So I just add the toasted couscous to the water. So once the couscous is brought back up to a boil, just lower the heat so that it goes down to simmer and cover. This will cook for about 10 to 15 minutes until tender. So the couscous has been in here for about 15 minutes, and fully cooked couscous will be a little chewy but not tough. And you can see that there's little curly cues that come out of the grain when you cook it. So cute. Lightly fluff the quinoa with a fork. So I love this recipe because it has so much color in it. This is 1 cup of cut bell peppers, and I used a variety of different colors, but if there's a color you prefer, choose that. 1 cup of finely chopped tomatoes. This is 1 cup of corn. 1 can of drained and rinsed black beans. 1/4 cup lime juice. 1 teaspoon of chili powder. And these 2 ingredients are optional because there are crazy people out there that don't like jalapenos or don't like cilantro. So you don't have to use these if you don't want, but I love the heat and I love the flavor of cilantro, so I'm adding plenty of that. I'm just going to dump it all in. And stir. So you can see how much this recipe makes. It makes 8 3/4 cup servings. So each serving comes out to a little over 80 cents a serving. This serving right here is 154 calories, 2 grams of fat, 5 grams of fiber, and 6 grams of protein. So you can try incorporating this into one of your next Mexican dishes. Instead of Mexican rice, try this out. And actually this tastes a lot better cold when you get all the flavors melded together. So couscous is actually a very finely ground pasta made from semolina, the same type of wheat that, say, your macaroni or spaghetti is made out of. So couscous is basically tiny little pasta. And like pasta, it's very cheap, about 10 cents for a half cup of cooked couscous. And you can find this again right next to the rice aisle. But it doesn't have a lot of flavor, much like pasta. So with cooking with couscous, you want to cook it in a stock or some type of flavored water so that you can really add more flavor into the grain while you're cooking it. Also, it would be very important to lightly toast the couscous to help bring a little nutty flavor and add to your dish. Today I'm going to show you my recipe for Italian couscous. Again, with cooking with couscous, you want to use a liquid that has a lot of flavor so it incorporates into the grain while it's cooking. So for this recipe, I make an Italian style stock. And all that is was 1 can of Italian style diced tomatoes, so it has seasoning already in here. And I added that to 1.5 cups water and made that my stock for this dish. And you can see we'll put 1.25 cup of that stock, so you can incorporate some of those tomatoes into that as well. And I'll get that to a boil while I'm cooking the couscous. Once the couscous is lightly toasted, add the 1.25 cup boiling stock right to that pan. Cover, remove from heat, and let that sit for 5 minutes. So in less than 5 minutes, all the liquid is absorbed, and I'm just lightly fluffing the couscous with a fork, breaking up any little clumps. Okay. So I'll pour this couscous into a mixing bowl so I can add just a few more simple ingredients and make this an awesome side dish that can be served with something like chicken parmesan or eggplant parmesan. This recipe has 3 more simple ingredients. 1/2 cup of quartered cherry tomatoes, 1/3 cup of shredded Parmesan cheese, and 2 tablespoons of chopped basil. And just mix them in the bowl. So there you have an Italian style couscous in less than 10 minutes. 1 serving of this Italian couscous is only 70 cents. 184 calories, 6 grams of fat, 2 grams of fiber, and 7 grams of protein in this small serving. So what an awesome side dish to add to any Italian dish that you're used to cooking. So I hope today you were able to see just how easy these grains are to make. If you know how to boil water, you can make these dishes. These grains are so versatile, so get creative and get in those whole grains.